Hi, and welcome back to Twirl Craft Studio. So excited to have you here today. I thought we would do a really fun and funky kind of project. It's a mixed media project using clay, jute twine, decoupage, and some copper wire. So if you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button, and let's dive in. For today's craft, we're going to start with just a few ingredients, materials that you might actually have at home already. All we'll need is a tin can, and then we need something a little bit bigger than the tin can, about like that. It doesn't have to be a piece of wood, it can be a jar or something, and some natural molding clay. I got this at the dollar store. They're super easy, you don't need to cook it afterwards. And then some sort of rope. This is kind of like nautical rope, it's hemp, and some twine. Okay, after you have rolled out the clay to about 1/4 of an inch thick, take your first mold and place it on the clay and then just cut it out. This is, remember, everything afterwards is fixable with sandpaper, so don't worry if your edges aren't smooth right now. We'll take this off. Perfect. Now I have a nice round circle here. So that's the base of our craft. Now I'm going to roll this out again to make another cut. So I'm just going to move this aside for a minute. Okay, I have this rolled out long ways and I am going to put holes down one side. This is where we're going to weave the string. So make sure that they're fairly even. Holes, and you got to make sure it goes all the way through. So you might have to lift it up a bit to make sure it goes through. Oops. Again, later when it's dried, you can just push it through if it closed up a bit. So that's okay. Perfect. And sometimes it will flatten out a bit and just push it back together. I loved this last time I did this, so I thought we would repeat it and just change it up a little bit. Okay, perfect. We're shaping this into a circle, molding these pieces together with some water. And again, at this point, it's going to look messy and you're going to wonder if you screwed up, but don't worry because sandpaper does magic afterwards once it's dry. Perfect. And we're going to put this onto the base. This base is purposely bigger. Okay, and I might even go smaller with my circle, a little bit smaller, because I'm going to also put holes in the base. So we're going to cut this and mold it a little smaller. Wow, it's already sticking to the base. Okay, so I've cut a piece out. Okay, and then go like this again, just to make it in a circle. Okay, that side's good, that side's good. Perfect. Mold this back together. And I'm going to add some water. Good. This is looking great. Add some water inside to help stick it to the base. Push it down. There we go. Perfect. Okay, putting some water around the outside and the inside. Dog hair. Remove the dog hair. We have a St. Bernard, so there's tons of dog hair always. Excellent. Okay, and now it's pretty shaped. And now what we're going to do is put holes on the outside. Taking something, you need to make sure that your string, and I will probably use this string, but I might have to use a thinner string depending on the hole size. And just, again, punch the holes through all the way around the piece. Perfect. Okay, this one was a little easier. I can tell I'm going to have to lift it up afterwards and make sure the holes go all the way through, but that's okay. Again, just go like this to make sure it rounds out again, because sometimes it'll stretch with the hole. Good. The hardest thing about this craft is after we do this and make sure everything's okay, we have to put it aside and wait for 2 or 3 days for the clay to completely dry. And we'll just keep tweaking it until we're satisfied with this part. And one more hole and then we're done. Okay, good. And then do this, making sure, looking around. Yep, that looks pretty good. I'm just taking some more water. Okay, we'll be back in a couple days to finish off this craft. Okay, this is what a lack of patience looks like. I was so angry, I moved it and it just cracked. And so then I did the exact same one, a little taller, off camera because I was frustrated. But here we go. So now we're on to our next step. Now that it's dry, I'm going to just sand off the imperfections, make it smoother, and then I'll have to wipe off the dust. Being very careful at the moment. This is where it turns from, oh, did I mess up, to, oh, that looks really good. It's one of the steps I love. Okay, now I'm ready to do the next step, which I'm going to do some decoupage in the middle here underneath. So I've peeled back the layers of the napkin and I'm just going to stick it to the bottom. Just putting on a layer of Mod Podge right now, getting it nice and coated. Perfect. Okay. Oh, I can't remember which way this was. That works. Perfect. And then I'm going to seal it, seal the bottom in. And at this time as well, I'm going to also just do a layer of Mod Podge to help protect the whole thing before I add the next step, which is going to be the macrame cord and the jute cord. So get a healthy amount of Mod Podge everywhere. It seals it in, it protects it. And I completely forgot. My next layer, I'm probably going to do 2 layers. The next layer might be a shiny layer. This one's a matte, but that's okay. I'll do more than 1 layer. Perfect. I'm going to put it right on here. I think because I like to use the sponge when I'm doing the decoupage so that I can get a nice layer over the napkin, but I think with the rest it would just be good to use a paintbrush. We're going to be adding twine to the top and the bottom, so I'm just sealing everything in, and then I'll let this dry while I do the twine. Okay, for the next step, we're going to use 2 different types of twine, and then some white macrame cord, and also this is nautical rope, or this one was actually hemp rope that I found. So I'm going to take this hemp rope and we're just going to glue it together like that. And then this is going to go on the top. These are just extra details. You don't need to do this, but I kind of like it, making it look rustic and different. We're going to use some macrame cord, and to feed it through the holes easier, what I like to do is just take a little bit of glue. You don't have to use the hot glue. You could use just even Mod Podge, just to put it on the ends there to make it harder. In fact, the Mod Podge might even work better. There we go. Okay, good. And now my fingers are all sticky too. Okay, I'm going to start with this one, and we're just going through the top. And you're just weaving it through the holes and bringing it through. Perfect. There we go. Pretty easy. Going through this one. So far, these steps are similar to the last craft project I did, but this one's going to be a little bit extra as we're adding the twine to the bottom too. Okay, good. It's already looking more polished. Okay, almost running out, so I'll start on this side. And we'll cut that, put a little bit of glue on it. There we go. And continue. Make sure that it's nice and tight. There we go. And 2 more. Okay. And then all we're going to do is down here in the middle here, we're going to cut these 2, and then we're going to glue them together. Okay, and now we're on to putting the twine on the bottom. Like I said, If you've watched my previous episodes, we did these boho coasters, and that's kind of the idea of what we're going to do around the bottom. So what I'm doing is I'm taking first the string, making it about just a little bit longer than the distance, it doesn't really matter, around. Cut that off, and then I'm going to be cutting a ton of small pieces, exactly the same size, 4 inches, and we're going to be doing a lot of them, and then afterwards we'll be trimming them. So they don't have to be exact right now because we are going to be trimming them and then combing them out. Okay, so these are them, and what we're going to do, I'm just going to set this aside for a moment, and we're taking this string and we're putting them, we have to be consistent about which side we put them on. You put them in half like this, and then you go over the rope, you put the 2 strings under the rope and through, and then just pull. You can hold it flat and just pull. And you get faster as you do each one of these. Perfect. Okay, and then we're just going to line them up like that. Like I said, we're probably going to cut them to that length afterwards. So again, we're going over and pulling the 2 strings through. Holding that. Perfect. Okay, so I got to cut more string. I like to cut them at the same length, even though we're going to do a trim afterwards. Now that we have the skirt for, well, what I like to call a skirt for this bowl, we are going to attach it. I've turned this upside down to make it a little easier, and we're going to go with this string. And so all we're going to do is just do the same as the top, where we're weaving it through the bottom, making it nice and tight. Okay, so there's starting on the first one, trying to keep it as tight as possible. The first couple might be just a little awkward, but then it works. Mod Podge definitely is the best solution for putting it on the edges. It is keeping it nice and together, and I'll show you how easy it is to go through now. It's nice and stiff, and it just goes through nicely. We flipped it back over, and what we're going to do is just tighten up the string a bit, just to make it nice and snug. So you just pull all around and tighten it up. This is looking really good. I'm really excited about this project. Well, let's keep it going. So nice. Oh, that one. And we're working our way all the way around, just pulling it snug. Oh, there's quite a big bit of wiggle room here. Perfect. Okay, now that it's snugged up, we go to the back side again, and we are just going to tie this string off, and then we're going to cut. There we go. Add a dab of glue just to make sure it's nice and secure. We're just going to give this a trim, and then we're going to comb it out. So I'm doing about 3/4 of an inch. You decide, and just cut all the way around. I guess you could leave it longer if you wanted to. And you could also do zigzags up and back and forth to make it different lengths. I'm just going to try and keep mine for the most part the similar length. Perfect. You might need to do a few trims around just to even it up a little. Flatten it again. And then where there's pieces sticking out, just trim them off. Okay. And then take your comb. And this one doesn't need to be combed out that much because it's already pretty frayed, so it doesn't need to, but just give it a nice comb. Perfect. Okay, and we're on to the next step. If you know me, if you've watched all my videos, I love working with copper wire. So we're going to put a little copper wire accent. This copper wire spiral, we're going to put it right in the middle. So I'm going to add more Mod Podge to help seal this in. There we go. And then putting the copper wire in. It actually does stick with this Mod Podge.
And here it is. I love how this turned out. It's rustic, it's cozy, and it's got just enough sparkle to make me happy. What do you think? Would you put this in your home?
Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.